Thank you so much for taking the time. I appreciate it. So, Tampa, what's up, man? So, we're thinking still getting ready for Tampa. Is that the goal?
Yeah, yeah, that's kind of like the reaching point is either Tampa. I know we had talked about maybe doing Texas, but I think Tampa is going to be the more realistic show.
Because
So
Texas is after Tampa, right?
I believe so. Yeah, I think Texas is like middle of August, and then Tampa maybe like 2 weeks after.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, okay, cool. Yeah, so today I've got Mr. Nicholas Jackson on. We were on before and just had a couple complaints. Our audio was kind of shitty, and I've got a lot more viewers now, and I really wanted to kind of get you back out so people could hear your story a little bit. I don't want to go through everything we talked about, but I do want to like rehash just a tiny bit of what we went through before. And then last time we talked, like, we also like I broke down some of your biomechanics. We looked at a video of that, so definitely check that out if you haven't seen that because I think we went over some really good stuff. So right now, you're getting ready for the Tampa Pro. You're still working with Blue. Everything going pretty good.
Yeah, everything's going great. Like we started in July of last year, and things have been really progressing really well. So definitely excited about what we've been able to accomplish so far, and then what the future hopefully is going to hold as well.
So this, are you still like an off-season push? This would be? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, we're still in the all season push. I would assume we're probably having like another like 2 months, 3 months or so before prep really starts. So
What are you weighing?
we're sitting at about 241, 242, like depending on the week and water intake.
Is that pretty typical like off-season weight for you, or is this more or less?
This is less and definitely a lot leaner look this off season than past ones. Um, in comparison, when the off season before the New York Pro, I capped out about 254. So we're definitely almost a full 10 pounds lighter, a
You
little
think
bit over 10 pounds lighter
you got
than
more
the.
more muscle tissue? Or you're just leaner?
I think we're adding a lot more quality tissue this time around. Um, I mean, not to say we didn't add good tissue before the New York Pro, but I feel like in comparison, being this lean and still kind of creeping up in the weight, I think the tissue is a lot more solid than any actual fat being added on. So.
Yeah. Do you think you lose like muscle tissue easier if you come in a little too heavy and you got to start dieting? You think if you're leaner, it just like people tend to lose their legs, right? I always hear that if you're a little bit leaner, like sometimes the legs will stick around. What do you think about that?
I think if I feel like if I'm too heavy, I feel like the risk of a lot more tissue being lost just because you're trying to pull weight all the way down to 212 and so on. Regardless, you're going to lose some mass and you're going to lose some tissue and you try to hold on to them best as you can. But I think having a more leaner route, um, I think I'll be able to hold on to tissue a lot better being leaner in the off season in comparison to being a little bit heavier and then trying to drop that extra fat on top of anything else that needs to be pulled down with the weight.
Is 212 still pretty easy for you to make?
I think so. Like, I don't think that's going to be too hard of a stretch to get down to 212. I think it'll be a lot easier. Uh, again, being this lean in the off season, I think the prep would go a lot smoother in comparison to um, starting a prep maybe 22 weeks and maybe this prep maybe starts like 16 weeks like that having that kind of different time frame because you need that extra 6 weeks to cut down from 250 plus to 212 instead of coming down from 240 to 212. I feel like that adjustment makes things easier.
Do you remember what you weighed in New York?
um I believe I stepped on stage at 207,
You were pretty
maybe a
pretty
little like.
conditioned, yeah.
Yeah, and I think after carb up, we probably were like 209. So I think the weigh in was like 206, 207. And then probably on stage like 208, maybe 208 and a half.
Do you ever see yourself open in the future? I mean, that's you're not too far from it.
Um, I think I will stay in the 212 division, just because what it would take to be competitive in that open class and knowing the individuals in the open division and how massive these men are. And so not to say that they're unhealthy or anything like that, but I think for me, it would push the limit on what I would be comfortable in doing in this sport. So I think 212 is that comfortable position of size and being comfortable in my own skin, that kind of deal.
It could always be cool, even while you're competing at 212, like just do one show in the open, just see what your body looks like without having to come down, even if you're not that heavy, you still get the pictures. And, there's been a little more 212 guys jumping over and then, sometimes they do pretty good because you guys have the condition, even when you go open, you usually will
Yeah.
see kind of a pretty big disparity in the 212 who's competing against the open guys in conditioning. And you've got shape, like crazy shape. And you said the main thing you were trying to bring up was it your quads? I remember you saying something you're trying to get
Yeah,
your
yeah.
quads
So
up.
we're excuse me, I can't stop coughing to save the life of
Oh,
me.
there's all kinds of shit going
Um,
around right now.
yeah, I know. Like in the air quality here in Salt Lake's not the best. Um,
Well, I'm in LA. I'm close to LA where everything's fucking on fire. I don't know how
oh yeah,
I'm
so you're
okay.
you're you're coughing
I'm
up
okay.
probably.
I'm actually like in the perfect like this is the most beautiful weather ever. But like
Yeah.
40 miles away, it's like it's like the end of times.
Oh my goodness. So yeah, you're breathing all of that heavy smoke. Yeah, so we're trying to have a little bit more balance in legs and upper body. That was one thing that Blue and I discussed as far as what we need to really get over that hump in the 212 division. We feel like the upper body is very competitive. We just need to get the legs to match the upper body, and it's not. I don't think there's a heavy tilt as far as being really unbalanced, but it's just enough unbalance that you can notice it if you have the right eye paying attention. So,
What
being
shots are
able
you
to
looking
breathe really
at
cool.
in
Say what?
particular? You looking more like at your side shots or what or the
Yeah,
back?
yeah. So we want that outer sweep to a little bit be a little more a little thicker, hamstrings to come like hang a little bit better. So if we can add maybe 2, 3 inches of the outer quad sweep, I think we'll be really in a good spot.
So I've been getting like a lot of I've been doing a lot of these with some pretty big pros and I've been getting a lot of questions about like training and stuff and as we've been going off and somehow I haven't missed them so I'm gonna run through some of these training questions with you
Yeah.
since I really like your style of training too a lot of the pros like I'm not the I mean everyone's got something that works for them but usually I'm not the biggest fan of the way most guys train I like your training style a lot so let's go over a few of these and then I'm gonna make you repeat your backstory just because it's so fucking awesome
Yeah.
so So we had a couple questions. One of them was it kind of ties to what you're just saying is like bringing up a weak area. So what do you change when you're trying to bring up a weak area? Are you changing frequency, volume? How do you approach that? What you and Blue do?
So we focusing a lot more on volume. We added a second quad day into the week, and cut out a day. So instead of training 6 days a week, we're at 5 days. But we have two quad days. One quad day that's specifically targeted to quads, and then the second day is just a superset with hamstrings and quads mixed in together. So it's almost the quad day specific is very similar, if not exactly like German volume training. A lot of sets, minimal rest in between.
Doing the 30 seconds,
So
10 by 10?
yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
we're like 10 sets, 10
Or
reps,
Smith or
about
what?
yeah, Smith machine
Yeah,
squat.
yeah. That's what
Actually, I
he had
vary
me.
in
I needed
between.
quads too. He had me doing the same shit. Yeah, I need the
Yeah,
quads.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I vary in between Smith machine squats, front squats, the I can't think of the name of the company that makes it, but
Which
um,
like
it's
Rogers? I
a
like the
hack
Rogers.
squat that you can. No, it's not. It's the Rogers swing squat is also one I
Yeah, I've
switch
seen
in
you do that
between.
one. Yeah.
But it's like I want to say it's Atlas, but I don't think that's the actual name of it. But it's
It's
a
a hack
hack
squat?
squat. Yeah, the hack squat that you can adjust the seat to be
Oh,
seen a little
that's
bit forward.
Atlantis. Yeah, I had that
Yeah,
one.
the
It's like the
Atlantis.
30,
Yes,
30,
yes,
30-degree one, right? It's not as steep, and then
yeah,
people band it and stuff. Yeah, I like
yeah.
that one. Yeah.
And so rotating between those, and then also the swing squat, the Panada swing squat, which is super nice.
Oh,
I
I've
did
never
that
used
two
that
days
one.
ago.
Yeah.
Super smooth, very
Is that
very
is
high
like a
quality.
pendulum or what is that
Yeah,
like?
it's a pendulum squat.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
I've never used Panadas.
Um, so I'll rotate between those machines, and do my 10 sets, 10 reps, pushing the weight as hard as I can, trying to get in that rep range of 8 to 10 reps. Uh, the rest time in between is about 30, 35 seconds.
Can you keep it
Uh,
there? Because I fucking couldn't, man. I did, but like I was like I started like pushing that shit. Like that's hard. So you keep it to 30? You do
it
what you're supposed to?
the first time I did it, there was no way. There was no way I could get it within that 30, 35 second. But I made it a challenge for myself that each week I would try to get better at it.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
so what I'm sitting at now is like the first 6 sets, I can get it.
Yeah.
Last four, not happening.
Yeah, exactly. That's about where I got to. Are you just doing straight barbell front squats? Or what kind of front squats?
Smith machine.
Smith machine? Yeah. Are
Yeah.
you comfortable with those? You're good with those? I fucking hated them so much. I could never really get comfortable with it.
It it varies with hand position. So I've been playing around with hand position to get better at it, but it's getting easier each time. Having the
This is,
hands like elbows push
oh, so you're
forward.
doing it the real way. I
Yeah,
don't got that mobility. Yeah,
yeah.
I'm too fucked. Uh, so when you're targeting quads, I know you're pretty big on like keeping tension when you want. So are you controlling your range of motion? You're not going like super ass to the ground, or how do you do it?
So we've been changing it a little bit. We've been like really trying to dig deep into the bottom of the motion. So we're essentially getting ass to grass, but trying to keep that tension all the way through. So at the top and then pushing to the bottom. So that's a little bit of a change in the motion itself.
Well, you were trying to get some hamstrings and adductors and stuff too, right? Some glutes. So it's
Yeah,
probably good you go full range.
yeah, yeah. So that was having that little bit change um, from blue to kind of like target that deeper stretch in the quad has been helpful for sure.
And is this day a little shorter than the other leg day, like as far as time spent in the
So
gym?
we set about 90 minutes for each working for each training day, and so most of the time I'm done in an hour.
Yeah.
Uh, there's some days where it goes a full 90 minutes if I'm just moving a little slow, but majority of the time training ends in an hour.
And then what do you like as far as number of exercises whenever you're hitting a body part?
Yeah. So leg day is just one, it's just squats,
Yeah.
and it's usually at one machine, 10 sets.
Yeah.
Um, Back movements, chest movements, arm movements. It's about 3 or 4 different exercises. About varies between 3 or 4 sets. Still at that 8 to 10 rep range. Pushing the weight as hard as you can while maintaining that rep range. Nothing more uh, than 3 or 4 exercises.
Because I've got a lot of like natty guys that watch me. I feel like a lot of these guys really sometimes overthink. They think a lot about their training.
Yeah.
I get these comments like, "Well, what about how does that affect maximum motor unit recruitment?" Or like, "How many reps in reserve are we supposed to do?" And I'm just like, what's your philosophy when it comes to that? Like, are you doing intensity sets? Are you leaving reps in reserve purposely? Are you going to like mechanical failure? How do you kind of approach that?
So the intensity's high from first set to last set.
Yeah.
Um, we pushing to the point where, that last set, you're trying to push in that 8 to 10 rep range with the weight. So it's not technically training to failure, but you want to make it to where you're really having to drive and you're really having to grit it out those last 2 reps.
Are you
It
doing he does sorry, he does like kind of pyramid, right? Is that what you're doing on your normal days? Is that
Yeah,
what
so
you,
I tend to have I'll do a couple warm-up sets with every exercise that I do just because that's just how I like to do it. And then once I feel like I've gotten warmed up, muscles are loose, we're all stretched, then we drive right into the intensity of the lift.
and then are you doing it to where you're lowering the reps and making the weight heavier each set? Or is it
So
backwards? I
the
can't remember.
reps still stay the same.
So you're
So
keeping like that 8 to 12, 15 range the whole time
yeah,
and
yeah.
just
So
adding
eight to ten
weight?
reps is the target range for each of my sets. Um, there are times where I would try to push the weight and see if I can make it to the 8 to 10 rep range, and sometimes I fail, like I can't get there, and so that's when I know, okay, maybe we can pull back on the weight and make sure we can still get the high intensity while still making that rep range.
And then what is your take on range of motion? I know we talked about this a little bit before. I know you're big on like keeping it where you kind of need it, but there are times and places where you want a little bit bigger range of motion. Like, for example, I really like the way you do your chest press. I've seen you bench press 5 plates, like keeping tension on the pecs by not going into like hyper extension and things like that. So do you
Yeah.
think maybe some of the new guys focus a little too much on that instead of keeping tension where they want it? Or do you think it is good to push that range of motion kind of as far as you can get?
I think it kind of just depends on what muscle group you're training. Say for example, lats, right? Like you want to get that good stretch at the top of the movement and then great contraction at the bottom of the movement. So when I'm training lats and I'm doing lat pull downs, like I'm doing that full stretch at the top and then really driving through. Same thing with seated rows, like leaning forward to get that full stretch and then driving through in the back. Chest, a little bit different. Um, I tend to, like you said, I tend to keep the tension. Like I don't really fully lock out of the top of the motion. I just kind of maybe like stop 3/4 of the way up and then press again. Those are the things I feel like over the years through training has helped me develop a chest, my back, legs, and things. Is just kind of trial and error of what would be the best, most efficient way for me and my body to grow the muscle I need.
And you're pretty flat on your presses, right? Like if you're doing like a flat press, you're not using a big arch when I watch you. You're pretty
No, no,
flat.
everything is flat to the bar.
Yeah, that's
I
why
mean,
that
to the
495 is so
bench. Yeah,
impressive.
yeah.
495 flat is way harder than getting a big old arch in there. Now, have you changed a lot in your training style as you gotten older? Is there anything you wish you would have done like different in the beginning?
I think I would have cut back on the number of movements in the beginning. Like I was so focused on wanting to be sure that I hit every angle in
Yeah,
one
Charles Glass
workout.
style. Yeah.
Right. And I think over the years, learning that less is more. I don't have to do 6, 7 different movements for a particular body part. Like I can lessen that to 3 or 4 with high intensity and and really driving with the weight through the desired rep range. And I can still get a quality lift and build quality muscle uh, without having to overexert it into 7, 8 movements. And I'm in the gym for almost 2 hours.
Yeah, whatever you recover from is what matters, right? So it's like you do
Right.
all this volume, but if you're not able to recover from, and that's why some people do because they kind of train like not as intense, and that can work to a certain degree. But I definitely into the camp that you need to have a certain level of intensity to stimulate any kind of growth. I feel like a lot of these guys have been like harping a scientific way to do it that's like less work, maybe more total volume, but like less mental fortitude. Like I don't know why people don't listen to giant bodybuilders and like what they do. They just attribute, oh, they're just on gear, but a lot of these other guys are on gear too, and they don't really look that fantastic. Is there anything that you kind of use or anything that you've done that maybe goes against the grain, like something that maybe is unconventional that works for you, or something that maybe isn't the ideal way but that you like?
Um, if I could say one thing, I feel like the big trend right now is going to failure. Like everybody wants to push to failure. Everybody's saying go to failure, go to failure, go to failure. I feel like that's the big thing across social media platforms is you got to go to failure, got to go to failure. And for me, I've never pushed, I've never seen growth for me going to the point where I can't push up in a movement. Like I've never had a workout where, like say I'm doing hack squats and I'm trying to go to failure and like I'm stuck at the bottom of the movement and I need
Yeah,
someone to push it up for me because I'm stuck at
I've
the
never done
bottom.
that either.
I don't personally. I'm sure I know there's science behind it. I know there's mechanics behind it and all those different things. And this is not to knock any of that or knock any trainer who wants to do it that way. But for me personally, for my particular growth over the years, I have found for me that that's not optimal. And then also, um, it could be the fact that I never really figured out what my failure point is. But that aside, I feel like I've been able to grow size and grow quality legs and quality arms, quality chest by doing keeping intensity high within the rep range, pushing the weight with what I can be comfortable in, getting towards that rep range, and then that's what has worked for me. And I feel like that may go against the grain a little bit, but that's what I feel like is optimal for me in my growth.
It could be a little different, right? Depending on the body part too. It's like you can fucking curl till you can't lift up your arms, you know.
Right.
But that's a little different than having a barbell or something on your back. Now, would you say this kind of like if you fall into this category? I can't really tell. This is kind of where I am. It's like I'll go to failure, but for me, like failure is like mechanical failure, to where if I'm gonna keep going now, I'm gonna have to get shifty and look all shitty to do it. Like if I can't keep it the way I want to, that's my last rep. I could squeeze out two more, but now I'm getting other shit involved, and I'm putting my axial skeleton in like not the best position. Is that similar to how you approach it?
Yeah. So I have a perfect example of this. I've been trying to get 15 reps of 405. Like that's
On
kind
what?
of out
On bench?
uh, on bench press.
Fuck shit.
And so that's kind of out of the workout plan that I have set for myself, but it's a personal goal. Like I
Yeah.
want to get there. Um, and I was able to get up to 12 reps. And then at that 12th rep, it was an extra push to finally get it up over that 50-degree, that 90-degree angle
Yeah.
at that bench press. And I knew at that point, if I tried another rep, it's not coming. So I know for some people, they will have a spotter there. And then that 13th rep where they get stuck at the chest and they're trying to drive through as much as they can, shifty, bringing more in the shoulders, all the different things to get the weight up while their spotter is pulling it. Because, that's what has been shared is that that's where muscle growth happens, right? Is that at that point of failure and you're driving through that failure, that's when you're really breaking down tissue to really grow the chest. I feel like for me, once I feel like I can't push anymore through, that's when I'm done.
Yeah.
Without needing the help of a spotter to get it up, like that's when I'm done.
That's pretty much where I am. And there's an argument for that when you talk about like maximum motor unit recruitment, because if you do like just fucking tax the shit out of yourself doing force reps on the very first movement, you're going to recruit less on your next exercise. So there is a little bit of a balance. I used to do. I mean, was there a time when you did it pretty crazy? Were you ever into like all the super extreme intensity techniques, or you've always had a more chill approach?
I would say when I was younger and I was trying to impress everybody in the gym, that's when the more intense, like trying to drive one rep maxes and doing all the crazy things because I wanted that attention, right? Like, oh, he just did 700 pounds on a deadlift, like that's awesome. Or he just did a 600-pound squat for one rep, and for me and what I'm trying to accomplish, that's not really effective. Now, if I was like a power lifter or something like that, and like those things would be what you would shoot for, right? Like that one rep max,
Yeah,
you drive through, it is what it is. But for what I'm trying to accomplish with bodybuilding, like that one rep, 600 pounds looks impressive. But if we could drop it to like 495 and get 10 reps out of it, that, in my opinion, get more quality tissue
that's
and
more
more growth.
impressive for us to see.
And
You
then,
know.
yeah, instead of doing that one rep, 600 pounds.
Yeah, I mean,
So,
if you're doing 405 for 20 for 15 or 12, like that's more impressive to me than doing like a single on some heavyweight to actually see you have
yeah,
that muscular endurance to do that.
exactly. Exactly.
I think Blue had me doing some rest pauses at one point. Do you do any rest pauses at all?
Not yet. We'll see if he makes any changes as far as when prep starts, if he makes any workout changes with that. But for now, it's just the volume training and pushing as hard as we can, keeping intensity high, focus locked in. So
Your style was pretty similar to what you're doing now before you started working with Blue?
yeah, yeah, it wasn't a big of an adjustment. The leg days were a change.
Yeah, that
Um,
German volume will fuck you up.
right.
Did he write it like the same way? Like he probably just copies pastes like if you puke, that's like good.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, I was like, okay, am I supposed to feel this
Which
way? Okay, I guess I am supposed to
yeah,
feel this way.
which is exactly how I felt the first time I did it. I wanted to throw up so bad.
Yeah.
Um, but the the intensity side of it, um, those things I'd always kept over the course of training. So that didn't need to change. The different movements, all of those things I've done before. So it was just more so um, adjusting to what Blue wanted me to focus on. And so the stretch and contractions, all those different things, like being more focused on that instead of just throwing up crazy amounts of weight and being able to make that small mental change has definitely made a big difference.
Just a couple more questions about training and stuff, and then we'll switch it up. You got some good calves for a black guy, right? Like,
Oh, thank you.
like I remember saying, is there anything you do in particular for that, or is that just genetic? Because people ask me all the time about my calves. That's just genetic, man. I don't do a lot.
Um, so a couple years ago, I made it a point to train calves hard. Uh, because like body dysmorphia is a pain, right? Like you look at your calves and they're small as shit. And so I was like, I think I have small calves. Like that's what I saw in the mirror. I was like, I see these small little things. And so I would train them 3 times a week and I would do different calf machines each of those 3 times. So donkey calf raises one day, standing calf raises the next, and then another calf movement the third time. And I would do 4 sets of 12 reps, really squeezing as hard as I could. Like the weight wasn't necessarily a focus, but it's just like if I could stretch and squeeze hard as the weight went higher, then that's what I would do. But the moment that the weight became too heavy where I couldn't stretch at the bottom and squeeze at the top, that's when we will bring it back down. Uh, Now it's just twice a week, just on my own. And I would do them at the beginning of a leg day, like that at the very beginning. Again, 4 sets, 12 reps. And then that's just kind of been the training focus on the calves.
I've heard a lot of people say they move it to the beginning, and that's really helped them. I guess you kind of like, I mean, for me, I do them at the end. That's why I skip them a lot. Is that the main thing? I guess you can like put a lot into it, right? If that's the very first thing you do, it's not going to really take away too much from what you're doing. I did play around real briefly with like the Arnold style a couple times where he
Yeah.
would just kind of like whatever day it was, everything he did, he would just do a set of calves in between. Like it'd be like
Mm-hmm.
an arm day, he'd hit a curl and go and do a little calves because I think he had some OCD with his calves. He used to remember like take the pictures in the water and cover up his calves and shit. He was
Yeah.
so like ashamed of them. But yeah, you've got some really good calves. We had a question about rear delts and triceps, and your upper body's stacked. So rear
Thank
delts
you.
can be a pretty tricky thing for some people. I feel like some people just have really good rear delts. Like, do you remember? I don't know if you remember like how closely you follow body, but do you remember Lockett, Michael Lockett?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
like he had a freaky rear delts, and you could just see by the way he pulled, he was just pulling with so much rear delts. So some people naturally can really build them up heavy by doing like rows if that's the way they pull, but most people don't do that, and it can be a little hard to isolate. I feel like a lot of people don't connect with the rear delts. So, what do you do, and what do you like to hit the rear delts?
So I do mostly dumbbell rear delts, like dumbbell rear delt flies. I try to
Like on a
make
bench
sure
or like on your belly, or you just leaned over? How you doing it?
it's leaned over, almost
Yeah.
like a bent over row,
Yeah, yeah.
and
Oh, so
have
you're
that
you're
like
you're, you're like standing. You're not on a bench. You're like just
no, no,
hinged.
yeah,
Okay.
we're standing. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And so we're standing 90 degrees. I try to keep my elbows pointed out, so don't let them dip in, but pointed out and then driving through, and really almost similar to using a pec deck, like a reverse fly on a pec deck, the same similar mechanic motion, just driving through with the weight and stretching at the bottom, driving through, keeping the elbow out and up. I feel like that has contributed to rear delt growth. Um, and then also, um, I can't think of the actual technical term for it, but the cable row, essentially the standing cable row where you like have a little bit of lean back and then you're driving the cable, pinpoint to the forehead, elbows up, like
Two
driving
hands?
through. Say that again?
Two hands? You mean like a face pull or
Yeah,
what?
yeah, yeah, face
Okay.
pull.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Which so do you do
yeah.
that like an underhand grip or you go overhand or both?
Uh, Kind of an overhand grip.
Yeah, so you grab it and then so that's more of like a rowing motion, right?
Yeah,
I'll do both. Like I'll go heavier with the overhand because I feel like you can get like some good rear delt with that kind of like rowing motion. And then sometimes
right,
underhand is more of like an ER bias, so you'll still get some good rear delt with the extra rotation in there. It's a little more isolated. So I like them both. And then sometimes depending on people's setup, they might benefit from doing one or the other a little bit more.
right,
And then one thing I think that people don't take into account, it's hard for people to isolate the rear delts sometimes because they're so compressed back there in the shoulder blades. The shoulder blades want to
right,
move, right? Like you've got really good expansion. You can tell by looking at your physique. I've commented on you before in some of my other videos, like the way you lift and like the way a lot of people lift, like is different. Like a lot of bodybuilders are so squished, so compressed. Like I've been working with Sergio, trying to help him with his shoulder, and he's got extreme compression between the shoulder blades to the point where if we try to hit rear delts, he's just immediately kind of flaring the ribs and his shoulder blades are going back. So he's kind of skipping the shoulder extension part, just getting like rhomboids and mid traps. So I think a big part of it too is like something you might not have to be aware of because you've got that expansion. You're not compressed. Someone might need to like keep the ribs down a little bit, keep their abs engaged so that they don't
right.
immediately flare and go to those bigger muscles, especially if you're not very connected because those bigger muscles will really take over. But I really like the rear delt one that you were saying with the dumbbells. I'll kind of lean over on a bench typically. Compton has me doing something that I did all the time before I signed up with him. So it's kind of interesting. We'll do like a triple set on the bench where it's, just normal flies. And then we'll do like the row, but just really
Hmm.
focusing on the rear delts and then go to partials. And partials can be a good way for somebody to connect to if they're really having trouble, right? Because you won't want to like squeeze as much if you're just doing that partial range. So
Right.
that could help too, right?
Yeah, yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think what I see a lot of people doing is just like you said, they'll open up the rib cage, and so it's like a back fly instead of a rear
Yeah.
delt fly, and so you almost have like an arc in the lower back, and they're pressed up, chest out, and they're squeezing back like this, and it's like you may touch the rear delt a little bit, but you're bringing in other muscle groups, and it's like it's overpowering the rear delt. Whereas if you either use a bench or you're able to keep your core intact, just like you said, with that bent over and really drive through with that elbow to squeeze back on that rear delt, that's going to help you target more than doing just an open fly where your chest up.
Yeah, exactly. And you'll feel it like way different too. You'll get
Yeah.
that little rear delt pump. And then we had one more question about triceps. Like what is your favorite way to target triceps?
So using a rope and doing rope pull downs, I like doing that.
Just normal like two
So
hand in front of you?
yeah, two-handed in front.
Are you doing anything? Like I've been playing around with like really like pulling apart and getting like some deviation in the wrist, like kind of going out with my elbows. I haven't really done
Yeah.
that as much. It's been fucking me up. How do you normally do it?
So I'll do it exactly like that. So I'll have both hands, uh, and then I'll bring it down and then really squeeze out on the tricep to where the my wrist is pointing outward,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
then I can back up and then pointing outward again. That looks really awkward doing that.
yeah. Yeah, you got some guys who are gonna like
Right?
love
We gotta
that.
put some context on that motion. Uh, but um, so doing that, and then also skull crushers is another favorite. Um, I'm trying to think what else. Dips. I feel like
Yeah.
dips are underrated. I feel like people don't do dips anymore, but dips are highly effective.
Are you doing them any like what specific style? If are you trying to like be pretty upright or you leaned over, elbows tight, elbows out?
I try to be upright as much as I can, but I feel like weight just pushes me forward.
So you doing it more for
um,
triceps?
I think those three are my favorites.
Yeah.
Maybe like again, like three, four sets, 10, 12 reps, pushing the weight as hard as you can, and really driving those reps towards the end. I think are super helpful and great for building triceps.
Are you
Oh,
doing
close grip
any?
bench.
Yeah, I've seen you. Yeah, I've seen you throw up some big close grip bench. Do you now, if you're doing a close grip bench for your triceps versus like a bench for your chest,
Mhm.
what are you doing different? Are you doing anything different with your setup, or are you just moving your hands closer? Doing anything different with your
Hands are
scapula,
different.
rib cage? So it's
Yeah.
just the
So
hands.
yeah, the hands are a little bit closer into the center.
Yeah,
I try to keep the elbows pointed out, not so much outward, but like in here.
yeah.
And so when I'm pressing down, it's almost like I'm pressing down on my elbow and then driving through the tricep. And I feel like that kind of motion really targets them better
Like on a
than
Smith.
having it uh free bar on the barbell.
Yeah. Okay, so
Yeah.
you're just dropping straight. You're not making like a JM at all. You're just still vertical with the forearms, or do you get a
Yep.
little of an angle?
Um, like a teeny bit of an angle,
Just
but
barely,
just
yeah.
straight down and up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I found for triceps, there's like two ways to really hit it. If I'm doing triceps close grip, I'll go close and I will almost retract like a little bit more than I would for a chest press, or I'll almost do the opposite and I'll completely almost like flare the lats and like
Hmm.
really create a lot of space. And that's much weaker, but that's like a real isolated way to really get those triceps. I feel like either way of those can be pretty effective. They probably get a little different
Yeah.
parts.
Yeah. I think really just comes down to what is most comfortable for the individual. Like if you want to play the last a little bit, or if you want to keep it tight, whatever feels comfortable. Like sometimes you can put some pressure on the shoulder a little bit. Uh, so whatever, again, like whatever is comfortable, like you're really targeting those triceps and that close grip, then I feel like that's the route to go.
Do you do much like people are always real big on like the stretch? Are you doing any kind of like overhead thing at all?
So it is a pain to get the dumbbell behind me.
Yeah, I don't do that very much.
I used to be able to do it with no problem, but I feel like as size has been put on over the years, like it's become that range of motion has become terrible, and I'm trying to get better at it. But the last time I did it, it took me like two or three warm-up sets to get loosened up for me to get to do the bigger dumbbells to get behind. And then sometimes I arc my back a little bit, so I don't like
Yeah.
that. So it's not something I keep in the staple.
Yeah, I can't, I don't like the dumbbell ones. I mean, it's like one of those things. You see Ronnie doing it, and so like, this is the best fucking thing ever. And he's just, had the perfect, the
Yeah,
hugest dumbbell ever. So it's like, but I don't love the dynamics of it, when your hands are close pulling apart. I'll maybe do like single arm. I do like the cable sometimes, but I'll sit on a bench or something and kind of lean into it. So I'm not,
yeah,
because it's heavy. I don't want to like stabilize all that through my back necessarily, but
yeah,
it's one of those cases where I feel like stretch is good, but in some ways I don't know like if it's a little overrated on growth in certain things. Like it's always good to stretch for mobility, but I don't know how much of a difference is if you only hit that versus doing like a maybe a cable that's that angle. Like was that not stretch? But people
right.
really get specific about it.
I think with triceps, the behind the head dumbbell stretch, I feel like you would still get the same stretch and contraction by doing a pull down or push down. I don't think that angle is going to make that big of a difference, and as far as growth goes. But then again, that's on personal opinion. I have no real, again, mechanical science to back that up. But personal opinion, I think as far as tricep goes, a push down or a pull down, reverse or overhand would be just as effective.
Do you put much emphasis? I mean, I know we were talking about bench press where you don't really, but that's because you're kind of keeping constant tension. But do you put a lot of emphasis on the shorten range of contraction? I mean, you mentioned on the lat that you really focus on that, but what about other muscle groups? Because I feel like that's something again that a lot of people kind of like. There's not a lot of evidence that it does anything amazing, but I really think it helps bring out the details. I mean, you can just look at different bodybuilders over years who have talked about that. But do you focus on that the shorten range much,
So I think again, it really depends on what body part we're working, right?
or the movement,
So
right? Because I mean, you're gonna
yeah,
fly, so
yeah. So
you're
take
gonna
for
get that shortened range.
yeah. So take for example, like bicep curls, like incline bicep curl. I always have like Kai Green's voice in my head when I do those because he always talks about that full stretch at the bottom and then squeeze at the top. And so my bicep movements, tricep movements, I'm always thinking of good stretch at the bottom, real hard squeeze at the top. And that's what's going to bring out that fullness. That's going to break down the tissue. That's what's going to get those big arms and things of that nature. Um, so between that, lats, those are really the two body parts where I really start thinking about stretch and contraction. Uh, Everything else is just kind of keep tension as much as I can.
Let's switch it up real quick, big guy. I don't know if I want to ask you that. Got some interesting questions. What's the weirdest thing you've gotten since you've been a bodybuilder? Like, have you gotten like requests for feet and stuff like that?
Oh man, where do I start? so if I could say, I'll give you two. I'll give you two because I feel like these go hand in hand. So I had a random DM of someone wanting to purchase my used posing trunks. Willing to pay for it. I think the price like $300 that he would pay for it.
Did you put the number out there or did
He
he?
put it out there. I was like, "You, sir, I don't have the moral compass for this." And then the second was uh, muscle worship.
Yeah. And so
So,
what do you do with that? You're just like by yourself, like flexing and shit? What
so
is that
this
supposed to?
this particular individual, again, a random DM on Instagram, uh, he offered like $600, and it'll be similar to this, like a Zoom call, and I'll just be posing trunks, just flexing, oiled up, all these different things, and he'll watch and then pay the money. I'm like, again, I don't,
Are you supposed to say anything to him? How does
I
that
don't think,
work?
I don't know if there was like, we really didn't get deep into the details of what was supposed to be on my end of the transaction. Because I just kind of nixed it as soon as I read the full paragraph of what the offer was. But those two things, the used posing trunks and then a Zoom call multi washer. Definitely the two weirdest things over the course of the bodybuilding career. And there's things that filter underneath it, but those definitely two take the cake for sure.
Well, maybe they don't know that you're not like just a starving bodybuilder. You're actually like an attorney and have like
Right?
other ways to pay the bills. You know, a lot of guys, man, maybe they got to
Yeah.
have any
I mean,
other
I'm not
option.
knocking anybody's hustle. Like if that's what you do, then by all means make your paper. But that's not for me.
Yeah, so for anyone who doesn't know, you're a full-time attorney, right? In-house for
Right.
was it for a bank or for a financial institution or who do
For
you work?
bank.
Okay, cool. So,
Yep.
and we talked about before on the podcast, you have like a nice set schedule. You get to have your weekends to yourself, right? It's just normal. Do you
Yep.
take some time off as you're getting closer to prep?
So I'll take for travel time, I'll take time off for that. But I'm usually working up. I'm working until I leave to go to a
Wow.
show. Um, so I'll take maybe a day or two prior just to fly out and make sure there's no travel issues or anything like that that may cause me stress. So say, show falls on a Saturday, I'll leave on a Thursday or a Wednesday just to give me enough time for any delays or anything like that that happens when we're flying. Um, but I'm working
How do
all
you
the way
manage that
through.
so good? Because I mean, you got a kid, you're working full time. Like
Yeah,
I fucking it's like I scale my work down like a lot the last 4 weeks. And part of it's just because I'm like not the most pleasant. I don't want to like be shitty around my client. Not that I'm like shitty. It's just I get to that where I'm just
right.
like don't even speak. You know what I mean? Does it affect your work? Like how are you able to manage that? That seems so hard to me.
I really put in extra effort
You're
to,
consciously thinking like, okay,
yeah,
don't. Yeah,
like
okay.
I'm very self-aware that I am hungry and I am tired. And so having that self-awareness uh, allows me to uh, better prepare myself for meetings, better prepare myself for my coworkers. Uh, um, so I'm literally constantly thinking as the day goes, as my work day goes, you can't be an asshole. You can't be a jerk. Like you have to be professional, you have to be courteous, you have to be all these things. And so it's an extra energy that I have to put in to make sure that I'm doing my job at the highest that I can, considering all the elements and circumstances surrounding it. Um, Caffeine is also great. So, that helps me throughout the day as well. I think the biggest thing I think is being able to work from home.
Oh, you do it
Uh,
all from home. That's right.
yeah,
Oh, that makes. I was wondering, like, you must be such an anomaly, just walking
yeah.
around there.
So I go into the office maybe once a month, maybe once or twice a month,
Okay.
but majority of the time I'm at home. And so I think that takes the stress out of a lot of the stress out of it because I don't have to deal with traffic. I don't have to drive from my
Yeah,
house to
that's
work
true.
and work and back. I
Yeah,
don't
you
have
can
to
eat
carry all the
whenever,
meals with
right?
me. Exactly, exactly. And then I do have sometimes a lull in the day where I can lie down for like a 10-15 minute nap. And that's helpful, especially in those last 2 weeks or so where I'm just drained and tired. Um, So the hybrid work schedule that I have benefits in so many ways, not only with the balance of work and life, but also work and bodybuilding.
It can keep you on a structure sometimes too, having that little bit of that structure that you have to adhere to while you're in contest prep. I feel like it can help.
Yeah.
So when you're diving real deep into it, you're doing your cardio like first thing in the morning, then you go to
Yep.
work and you work out afterwards?
Yep. Exactly.
Uh, yeah, and
So
so
I'll wake up like typical day. If I'm in contest prep, like I'll wake up at 6 a.m., go do my cardio, be back home by 7:30, have that first meal, be at my desk in my home office by like 8:39, work through the day, get to the gym in the evening again around like 6:30, be back home at like 8:30, eat the last two meals, in bed by 10:30, hopefully by 10:30, and then recover for 8 hours, 7, 8 hours, and then back up again the next day.
were you ever like not disciplined when you were going through school? Were you like partying at all? You were going through school to become an attorney, right? So probably
Yeah.
like not that much. Was there a time where you just fucking let loose? Like you're very disciplined.
College, those college years
Yeah. Even
were a
when you
good
were going to
time. I
school?
wasn't bodybuilding in college. So I was just like lifting just to stay in shape because I just enjoyed lifting. It was a nice break for me. But I was out partying. I was doing the whole party scene in college, experiencing the full college experience. And then when I got to law school, understanding what it was going to take to get through law school, partying was not something I really did. I think I maybe went out my entire 3 years of law school. I probably went out for drinks at night anyway, two or three times. And then like I would take a break to go watch college football with friends like during the day, like on a Saturday or something like that. But as far as like partying, no, those things didn't happen. And then add bodybuilding into the mix after my first year of law school, there was definitely not that level of drinking and partying that I had when I was pre-law school.
Yeah. And you competed while you were in college for the first time? Was that right?
My first show was the summer after my first year of law school. That's when my first show was. So the summer of 2013 was the first competition I've done.
Nice. So it's like, what drives you to compete with your full-time job and everything you got going on? Do you have a kind of like the same passion for your job as you do bodybuilding, or is it more of just a job? You really like it?
I love both. I have a passion for both. I don't know if I would consider myself an anomaly having a passion for two different things.
As a
Because I know a lot of
bodybuilder,
people
that is
say,
pretty, no, that is maybe not for normal people, but bodybuilding's so
yeah,
all-encompassing. I don't play my guitar
right,
anymore.
right,
I used to
and
play
and that
guitar.
totally and that totally makes sense. Because I feel like everybody talks about, you got to find your passion in life and like drive with it. And for bodybuilders, like you just said, like it's all encompassing. Like that's what we drive for. That's what we strive for. But being an attorney, I mean, that's something I wanted to do ever since I was 8 years old. Like that before I even knew what bodybuilding was or anything about bodybuilding, like attorney was the tunnel, right? The tunnel vision was become an attorney. That's what we're going to do. That's how I'm going to make a living. That's what my career is going to be. Bodybuilding was something I stumbled into, honestly. And then I found that I loved it. I love the discipline of it. I love the structure of it. I love lifting weights. So, you add that concept of it and then understanding your food and what you can eat to grow and all those different things. Um, it's the discipline in bodybuilding, I would say, is akin to the discipline to be an attorney. Like you
Right.
have to study hard day in and day out. You have to be on top of your game day in and day out. Just like bodybuilding, you have to, be on top of your game day in and day out. You have to eat right. You have to train hard. You have to do all these A, B, C, and D to get to E, right? And so, those two things I feel like are very parallel in the mindset that you have to be successful in both. And so I think having those parallels makes it easy because it's not like I have to switch off, one hat for another. Like I can wear both hats essentially as far as the discipline goes and still be successful in both sides.
And I know you're pretty present as a dad too, right? With your daughter. How old is your girl now?
She'll be 3 on the 19th. So we're celebrating her birthday next Saturday. I think The 19th falls next Saturday. Does it fall on Sunday? But anyway, next weekend
Yeah,
she'll
Sunday, I think.
be,
Yeah.
yeah. So on the 19th of January she'll be 3 years old,
Oh wow.
and
So
so I
is she around
definitely
during the
try to
day?
be. Say that again.
Is she around with you during the day, or is she in like in a daycare or anything?
So we take her to daycare Monday through Friday, and then in the evening she's with us, and then obviously on the weekends we're hanging out doing our thing.
Is your wife working too?
Yeah, yeah. So she works as a marketer for home health, and so both busy careers, and but we definitely make time, especially on the weekends, to have a lot of family time and spend as much quality time as we can.
Yeah, we talked about it before the first time is how important it is to like actually enjoy that time and get to like be present with it. And obviously it gets harder as we get in towards prep and then our families they understand that to a degree, but still it's pretty hard. At least I'm sure it is for you with your girl, but with
Yeah.
with mine when she was just born to like not be able to be quite as big of a part of it for just a brief period. Is that something that you and your wife like discussed beforehand before you competed? Like after you had the baby, like this might be there might be a period of time where you got to like pick up the slack for me just a little bit, and then I'll come back full force.
It's definitely something we have to have conversations about. I think what even in prep, I still try to be as present as I can and still try to be as helpful around the house as I can. Um, it could be something small, something large. Like I'm still trying to find ways to share the load when it comes to our little girl because I don't want my wife to carry the full burden. Um, and are there limits to it? Yes, because those final 2 3 weeks, like energy level is zapped within the first hour of the day, right? So you're just kind of just going through the motions. You're going on fumes, but I'm still trying to find ways to be present and be as helpful as I can. Um, but definitely in the off season, like I am always here and present and showing up and doing the family things, all the things. Because one, I feel like I need to make up for prep.
Yeah.
And then two is because, I want my daughter to have her dad present. Like I want her to know that daddy's here and that he's always going to be here. And especially for little girls, like their first interaction with a man is with their dad.
Yeah.
So, I want her to have such a positive and loving role model and figure and a dad that's going to set her up for knowing what she wants and whatever partner she may have down the road.
What does she like kind of know what bodybuilding is now at this point? Like what does she think about it?
Uh, she
Has she been to
she knows
shows?
what she says. She says "Daddy's strong," so she'll say that, and then she'll say muscles and stuff like that. But um, she doesn't fully understand bodybuilding, and I really do look forward to the day when I can like sit down and like talk to her about this is what Daddy does, and like so she can understand, why Daddy does why I do the things that I do, and so she has a better understanding of, you know, this is a passion that I have, and I would love to share it with her at some point. And I can't wait to be able to take her to shows. And so she understands it's happening and that kind of thing. Cause right now she just like, there's thousands of people. Like, I don't
Yeah.
know what's going on right now, but definitely look forward to the day where she's going to fully understand it and we can have something else to bond with along with the other things that we do together.
What do you guys do right now? What are your main things you're bonding over? My girl just now has a personality and she's now 14 months, 15 months. So like
Yeah.
over the last like month, she like changed like a lot. So now like we're bonding a little bit. What do you, because it's harder with my boy, it was a little bit easier. Like
Yeah.
what do you do with your girl? What's your main thing?
So the biggest thing we love to do, like we love music. So we listen to music together.
She sing?
When she does, she
It's so
sings a lot.
cute.
Like when we're driving somewhere, she'll be in the back seat just singing her heart out to different songs that she learns along the way. We enjoy movies together.
What are
We
you
enjoy
listening to with
playing.
her? Like your music or like my kid makes me put on Kids Bop and shit, but like what are you
So
listening to?
we so when she's with me, like there's no Coco Melon playing. There's none of that stuff going on. Like we're listening to like Motown and Stax
Yeah.
Records, like stuff like that. And so she loves it. She really, really does. And I love that because that's music I grew up on with my parents. And so being able to pass that along to her is something I really enjoy. And so she'll sing along to Bill Withers, like she'll sing along to the Temptations and all these different songs and stuff. I love it. I actually love it. And along with the music, like we love to dance. She has quite a few games that we play together. We color together. She loves to read with me. So we have a lot of different things that we enjoy over between reading at night or reading during the day, playing games, music. We love it all.
Yeah, it's really fun to have the girl, I have the boy experience, and they are very different. People maybe act like they're not that different. There is. Are you guys? You said you want to have some more in the future?
We so Ivy is going to be the one,
Oh, that's right.
and
That's
so
right. I remember you told me this.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So she's going to get all the attention and spoiling. So it's going to be interesting to see how she grows up with all that attention.
I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure with you, you'll be able to manage that really good. Where
Oh,
I'm from over here, it's like I have some clients whose kids are very spoiled and very loved, but some of them turned out like maybe not like the best because they
yeah,
got so
yeah,
much and there was never like that balance. I'm sure you guys will provide a better
yeah,
balance. Uh,
yeah. We'll definitely create those boundaries of we give you this and this and this, but we expect this too.
yeah,
So
exactly. Do you have a lot of family around to help out in your area?
so
You don't have much out there, huh?
no, so all of my family's back in Tennessee, but my wife's family's here. So her mother, all her sisters, nieces, nephews, they're all here in Utah. So
Oh,
we have a lot of family time on the weekends with them, and so she gets to spend time with the cousins and hang out with them. And when we have different things to where we need someone watching her, like we'll take her to her grandmother's or we'll take her to a cousin or something like that, and that's big help having that here.
is she the baby, or is there younger ones than her?
So she's not. I believe she's the fourth youngest out of this generation of children. Because it ranges across the kid spectrum. Because her sisters have multiple children, um, like between 4 and 5 kids per family.
Wow,
Uh, yeah,
that's awesome.
so tons of cousins, and so she fits around. I think she's like the third or fourth youngest in this bracket of generation of kids.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, my boy doesn't have like any family here, but then my daughter, she's Hispanic, so they got like tons of cousins around. So
Yeah,
it's a lot different. It is way helpful having family around and seeing that dynamic.
exactly, exactly.
And so let's talk about dealing with prep in your stomach. So now that you're getting deep into the prep, does things get more sensitive at all?
No, so that was one of the big things. So after my takedown surgery in 2019,
Why don't we let's just go
which
ahead and like redo
yeah,
this.
nice.
So we'll talk
Let's
about
hash this out.
yeah, we'll go
Yeah,
through the whole thing again real quick. And so I'll just let you take it.
yeah. So I was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis in June of 2018,
And are you out of
and
college at this point?
yeah, I was here in Utah at this
Okay.
point. So I
Okay.
moved to Utah in 2015. Um, so June of 2018, the ulcerative colitis diagnosis.
Had you already
August,
competed? I'm sorry. Had you competed? You already
yeah.
competed.
So we did 3 shows. So we did the Utah Cup, not Utah Cup, uh, whatever show that is in October here in Utah. I can't think of the name right now. Then we went to Idaho. This is all in 2016, excuse me. And then we went to nationals in 2017, placed fourth. That was when nationals was in Miami.
That was light heavy.
Yeah, it was light heavy, placed fourth in that. So we were
You remember who
getting
won that
ready
year?
to 2017.
You know, remember who won your class?
It was Errol Moore.
Oh yeah, I remember Arnold.
Yeah,
He's still is
and
he competing? I
then
haven't seen him lately. He used to do
I
a lot
haven't
with
seen
Charles
him
Glass.
compete. I
Yeah.
know he's been training with you've been training with Charles Glass, but I haven't seen him do any shows since um, after that pro card win
Yeah.
in 2017. And then Kevin Johnson, I feel like this is his last name. I hope it doesn't kill me for forgetting his last name. He took second, and so those are 2 pro cards out of light heavy.
Now, were you
So
having
we were
issues during this prep, getting ready with your
no,
stomach? So
no,
you
I
didn't
didn't have any issues at all. Yeah,
have
everything was
any
good.
UC symptoms at all at this point?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
we're like in the midst of coming into the early part of our off season, around January and February. And I would say about March 2018, I started having some issues. I didn't pay much attention to it. May of 2018 is when things really started getting bad. Um, I wasn't sleeping. I wasn't eating. Uh, I would say I was getting about 30 minutes of sleep a night.
What is
Uh,
that because of the UC or was there other
yeah,
stressors?
it was the UC that was causing all this because uh, it was like a constant rumbling and pain in my stomach. Not realizing it was my bowel. I thought it was something in my stomach.
Uh,
And so we finally went to a gastro. I finally went to a gastro doctor in June. Got the diagnosis. Uh, they put me on different inflammatory medications, a couple steroids, and things are great. Like the
do
month of
they know why
July.
it progressed? Like why it kind of just started flaring up? No reasoning really?
So they don't. I don't think they have a really pinpoint down reason why UC happens. Um, if you read about it, they say environment, diet, like those are kind of the big typical things that affect gut lining. But I had a pretty healthy diet.
You didn't
Like I
change
wasn't
anything?
no,
Yeah.
like I wasn't any processed foods like chicken, rice, like the like the staple things I was eating.
Yeah. And like when I had Carlos
So
on, he mentioned a lot of just like stress affecting it. Like you didn't have a lot of
yeah.
crazy stress affecting you.
Mm-mm. No,
Yeah.
like I was pretty stress free. Like during that time period, at least I thought it was. Maybe I had
Yeah.
more stress than I thought. I don't know. But so the month of July, everything was great. Like I was on the anti-inflammatories, like I was getting back in the gym, and like everything was great. Like starting
Bowel
to eat
movements are good at
again.
this point.
Yeah, like I was sleeping. So I was like, okay, like we're getting back in the groove of things. And then August 2nd, I was at work at 9:30, and that's when my bowel ruptured. And drove myself home, which is crazy to think about.
Yeah.
Drove myself home. I'm like, okay, maybe it's just, gas or something like that. Like at this time, I didn't know it was my bowel that ruptured. I thought
Yeah. I
maybe it was
mean,
just
what are
really
you
bad gas
feeling?
or
It's
something like
fucking
that.
painful, right?
Yeah, so I felt hot, like almost like a fever. And I feel like I had to throw up and go to the bathroom at the same time. So like combination of those things, like
Uh,
immediately, like waiting the slow build, like right out the gate, like this is what you're feeling. Um, so finally rushed to the hospital. And they did a quick CT scan, and then like you have your wrist becoming septic because your bowel ruptured. Like you have all this stuff in your cavity, and we have got to get you surgery, like stat, like immediately. And so I'm
did
like,
your wife drive you up there, or how'd you
yeah,
get up there?
yeah. So
Okay.
we were dating at the time, and so she drove me to the hospital, and I'm signing the release papers as they're rolling me down the hallway to get into surgery. She's calling my parents, letting them know what's happening. Like all these thoughts are going through my head. Like the doctor's telling me, this is what's going to happen. We're going to do this, and then you're going to have an ostomy bag for 7 months, and all these different things. And I'm trying to make sense of it all. And because the first thing that came to mind was bodybuilding's done. Like I can't. There's no more competing for me. But when he had mentioned that the ostomy was only going to be for 7 months, and then you have a takedown surgery. I was like, okay, we can make it through these 7 months. We can do this. We'll be back at it. We'll be good to go. Like, let's just get it done.
Was there a part of you
Um,
that thought like you shouldn't? Maybe it was like gonna fuck you up?
yeah. So when all the surgeries were done, I had three total surgeries. The takedown surgery of the ostomy was in March of 2019, and that's when they created my J pouch, which is essentially the small intestine is curved down like a J, and the bottom of the J is what's connected to my rectum. And so that's how the bowel movement happens. Like the digestion and everything goes to the small intestine.
So there's no colon at all, right? Like no
Yeah,
large intestine at
it's all
all.
gone. Like
So is
large intestine is completely out there.
so do you digest faster? We had talked about
Yep,
that before, but yeah,
yep.
okay.
So everything moves faster. Bathroom trips are more frequent. About 5 to 6 times a day. So when I first got home from the surgery, The takedown surgery. That first month
That's
or
the last
so.
one, right? The takedown. That's
Yeah,
the third one. Okay.
right, right. So that last one in March 2019. Um, that first month after surgery, as my body was getting used to everything, like bathroom trips for about 10 to 12 times a day, which was just painful as far as like the sensitivity around the skin and everything like
Yeah.
that. But it finally worked. The body got used to it, come down to 5 or 6 times, which is exactly where it needs to be for normal pouch function and everything like that. When I
Can
saw
I
my
ask you real
doctor
quick?
for,
I'm sorry.
yeah.
Do you know like the process of the surgeries? Why it takes three? Like what remember what they
So
did?
normally it takes two,
Okay.
but the reason it took three is because the first surgery was emergency surgery.
Oh, okay.
And so that's why it took three surgeries because normally they do it in two. So they create actually, I think it's two surgeries. I don't think they do it in one single surgery.
Yeah, I
Uh,
know, yeah, I know I thought it was at least two, yeah.
yeah. So the normally the first surgery creates the ostomy, and you have the healing from that functioning, and then uh, that second surgery is the J pouch creation, and then
Okay.
you're done. But the reason it took three is because I had the bowel rupture, and they did the emergency surgery to clean me out, take out the large intestine, and then they did the second surgery and the third.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
And you were
Um,
training the whole time with the ostomy bag?
yeah, so I actually had a hernia in between the first and second surgery, and my surgeon told me uh, when I woke up after the second surgery, she's like, "Yeah, we're in there, and I fixed that hernia for you." I was like, "I didn't even know I had a hernia."
Nice.
Thanks
What kind was
thanks
it?
for fixing that. So, but yeah,
What kind
well,
was it inguinal or it was like umbilical?
you know what? I don't know. She just told me she fixed it,
Where was it
and
at? Do
so
you know?
no.
I wonder if it was inguinal. Maybe it was inguinal. I had double inguinal. A lot of bodybuilders do this where it's like down by our junk kind of,
Okay. Um, but yeah, like I didn't really give it like ask her any specifics about the hernia. She was like, "You had a hernia, we fixed it."
That's
I was like,
awesome.
"Great."
Yeah.
Yeah, just like take care of while you're in there.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I was training in between surgeries. Everything was great with the training. Like I just paid attention to, making sure the bag stayed stable during different movements and everything like that.
You're able to eat normal bodybuilding style at this time?
Yeah, yeah. So I was back to eating chicken and rice. I was eating like 4 times a day. Um, just like basic bodybuilding diet, like chicken and rice, beef and rice, stuff like that. Um, but when we were getting ready to get back into prep for 2020, I had a couple follow-up visits with my doctor. And I remember asking her, I was like, okay, are there any type of restrictions that I need to be concerned about? Is there a calorie cap? Like what I need to pay attention to? And she said, no, there's no calorie cap. Uh, the only things that I would pay attention to are just pay attention to how you digest things. If you have pain and indigestion with foods, then take those foods out because you don't digest them well anymore. So sweet potatoes are something I don't digest well. So
Did you
rice
used
as
to?
well.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, I used to be able to digest sweet potatoes very well. But rice is the carb of choice um, going forward. Proteins, there's all proteins I digest well: chicken, beef, turkey.
Interesting. You
Those are
think
good.
something would, be tough with the, it might be
Right,
good because it
right.
slows it down a little bit, potentially.
Yeah, yeah. Um, but there was really no um, restrictions or anything like that. Staying away from processed foods, sugary drinks, stuff like that, which I already do anyway. Like
Yeah.
making sure my water intake is high, which again, I already do that anyway. Electrolytes because I go to the bathroom and because I don't have a colon to absorb water in that final digestion phase, um, the risk of dehydration is a little bit higher. So electrolytes to replenish water intake, 2.5 gallons of water a day.
So you still do
Just
that much?
yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
Because I mean,
When you're taking electrolytes with that, you said?
yeah,
Still
yeah.
do? Nah, that's a lot.
It is, but it helps. It really does wonders for digestion because there was definitely a day where I didn't get enough water in and I felt it and it was
Yeah.
painful and it was never a good time.
What about
Um,
like does like trend fuck it up? Because I know trend can like have major like
um,
digestive issues for me.
I didn't have any issues with it. Any of the gear protocols I've had, Uh, I haven't had any issues with digestion, orals or anything. No digestion issues. So blessed in that regard. And each checkup that I've had has been great. Um, no issues with connection with the pouch connection, no pouchitis, nothing like that. Like digestion has been good over the course of the years. Even pushing 6,000 calories, like stomachs has held up, digestion's held up. So
Do you think it keeps you leaner at all? I mean, I always felt like John Meadows was a little extra lean, and he said possibly he thought it might be because he had a very similar thing going on.
um, it could be. I haven't really paid much attention to, you know, whether or not I'm leaner, quote unquote, because of the J pouch.
And he also
Um,
talked about making them drier. I guess kind of what you're talking about too. Like you
yeah,
need a little bit more water.
exactly. 'Cause I think
Now,
that I think I can attribute to the J pouch is because I lose more water doing like going to the bathroom than a normal person would.
and so were you thinking about prepping or like what when you have the ostomy bag, like what is on your mind as far as bodybuilding? Did you have a show in mind that you were thinking, okay, after I get this surgery, I could do this, or were you just trying to keep it going? What was your thought process then?
I I was just trying to keep it going. Like I didn't know what the timetable would look like as far as getting back into competing again. I just wanted to maintain some type of muscle foundation for when we finally pulled the trigger to get back in. Like we would not be starting completely from ground zero.
And you were working with
Like
a
we'll be
coach at
at a
this
good
time?
spot. I was with my prior coach at this time
Was he like
before.
concerned? Was he freaking out a little bit, or he was like, okay, we'll just do this? Like, I'd be a little,
Um
I wouldn't know what to do, you know?
he so he had spent a lot of time researching it um while I was going through the surgeries and everything like that. And so we created a plan in 2019 to kind of work my way back into competition form as far as like muscle building and everything like that. Starting real slow with the diet, real slow with the calories, not jumping back into gear usage too quickly. Um, so we really didn't put the foot on the gas, I would say, not until about March or April of 2020. And then by that time, we're only a couple months away from prepping for the October show here in Salt Lake. So it's like perfect timing for everything.
And so
And then we
that's
ended
what
up
you
going
did?
to nationals that
You
same
did the
year
Salt
too.
Lake show?
Yeah. So we did the Salt Lake show in October, and then we went to nationals in December when they moved it to
You
Orlando
you won the
originally.
Salt Lake one,
I did win the Salt Lake one. Yeah.
the overall?
Yep.
And
I
so
was a
were
heavyweight.
you were a heavyweight?
Yeah, because we knew we were going to nationals the same year, so we didn't condition as hard
Yeah.
because we like peaking twice is hard. Like this
Yeah.
is really so I was like 202 pounds when I stepped on stage for the Utah show, and then we were able to squeeze down to about 194 for nationals. Ended up taking third at nationals.
So what the top two get pro cards, right? So you were right there.
Right, I was like right outside
That's
the
better to
door.
win it. You ended up winning it, so that's better than getting top two. Now, right after the surgery, is it like do you have stomach control issues as far as like posing and managing your abs, or not so much?
So it took quite a bit of work to um, regain that ab control.
Good thing you got
Um,
tiny waist too. I mean, that's
yeah,
helpful.
it definitely panned out in my favor as far as that genetic side of it. But it wasn't difficult as far as the work goes. It was just more so practicing, like continually practicing those um, ab and thigh poses, just like focusing on contraction, focusing on squeezing. And I would say maybe like 2 or 3 months of that kind of focus, like we were good to go as
Yeah,
far as being able to have that ab control.
nice. And so you did the nationals in 2020. You got
Yep.
third,
Mhm.
and then when you did the nationals, didn't you turn pro in 2022? Or am I wrong?
I did. So we did USA's in 2021.
Okay.
Um, Took fifth,
Was that
and
pretty
then
stat class? Who was in there?
it
Do you
was
remember?
it was. I don't remember all the guys that were there, and I honestly don't. I think the guy who won USA's for light heavy was a client of Chris Cormier.
Oh.
It was he was a black guy. I think it was for military. I can see his face. I just can't call his name. But
Were you
he ended up
disappointed with the
winning.
fifth place?
I wasn't. I wasn't. Because I knew how stacked the class was. And when I went back and looked at pictures from that show, I'm actually surprised I took fifth. Not surprised, and I feel like I probably could have placed lower.
Yeah.
Um, because I didn't like some of the posing. I didn't like how I looked as far as like my back poses, stuff like that. So that fifth place, I feel like was really a blessing uh, as far as taking fifth. So I was happy about it. Um, but I knew what I needed to work on between USA's and the nationals in 2022. And back development was the biggest thing. And I made those adjustments along the way, adding in a second back day, um, focusing harder on the intensity for each workout, that kind of thing, cutting out a lot of the chit chat in the gym, like being as focused as I possibly could. And that translated into pro card win in 2022.
Yeah, and like I mentioned before, I started looking at national shows after I won Excalibur in 21, and I remember I was gonna do that, and I was like, I don't as top two turn pro, I don't see anyone who's like so fucking freaky that maybe I can't get in the top two. And then I remember seeing you, and I was like, okay, maybe I can get that second spot. I don't know if I want to fight for a second. I was like, let's maybe hold off a little bit.
Yeah.
And then I ended up opening my gym, and it just was crazy timing, so I wasn't able to do it. But yeah, there's no way I was gonna probably crack the top two that year anyway. And then, so New York Pro was the only pro show you did. That was 23 or 24? I forget. It was 24, right?
24. Yes.
Okay. Nice. So you took some time off, you switched to blue. Did you, or you didn't compete with blue at the New York Pro, right? Was that on your own or is that with your old coach?
That was the old coach at New York Pro.
Okay, cool. And
Yeah.
so now we're getting ready for the Tampa Pro 212. Do you know any 212s you might jump in? You heard anything at all?
I have not. I haven't really been keeping my ear to the ground as far as what the competition is going to look like, and I tend not to, just because I feel like it affects mental when you start paying attention to who's going to show up.
Yeah.
I can only control my controllables, and that's me. And so we'll bring the best package we can. Then, chips fall where they fall.
Tampa's a pretty big show generally too. So like
Yeah.
you don't have any current issues at all with the stomach stuff? Is there anything you have to manage as far as wow, man,
Mm-mm.
that's pretty cool surgery. It's awesome.
Yeah.
I would think that that would be like really hard to deal with as a competitor. I know John had some issues still, but it sounds like yours is a little bit smoother. And
Yeah.
then what about like
I feel like
diuretics? You said you can't really do much with those, huh?
no, no, and we're probably not going to be doing a lot of those going forward, which I'm happy about.
Yeah.
Um, the biggest thing is just paying attention to digestion.
Yeah.
Like as soon as I feel like digestion's not right, or I'm not able to go to the bathroom like I normally do, then we're calling for the doctor. Like, hey, have some issues. But for the most part, J pout surgery tends to be very successful going forward. I think it was like maybe 10 to 12% of surgeries don't work, and
Oh
that's for
wow.
various reasons.
That's got to be kind of
It's
scary,
also
right? Like going
yeah,
under and knowing there's like a 10% chance this could be for like nothing.
right. But I mean, 10%, 90% success,
I know
10%
I'm
failure.
so negative, I'm like focusing on the it's like
I
yeah,
mean,
90's
believe
way
me,
better.
when I was sitting there going through the surgery, and I'm looking at all the odds and things of complications and stuff, like your mind definitely goes down a rabbit hole because I was definitely concerned about it. But after that first year, and then second year, then third year, and everything has been going so smoothly, it it kind of puts you in a real comfortable spot as far as not being too worried about having a problem. Uh, being able to recognize when there is a problem is also helpful. Not really passing off anything is just, oh, this is a one time thing. Like honestly, if something ever pops up that I don't feel comfortable with, I'm calling my doctor. Like, hey, I had a bad digestion day. Like I'm concerned about it. Can we come see you? And she's always more than welcome, not welcome, but more than happy to accommodate me for any office visit.
Man.
if I ever feel like something's wrong.
Do you do anything to manage like stomach issues now? Any medication, or you do like glutamine, or you do the curcumin, or anything like that? Apple cider
So,
vinegar, lemon.
so all the curcumin, the glutamine, probiotic, all
What's
those
what
things.
what's your dosage of glutamine you taking?
Uh, I do 3 times a day, so is that 15?
15?
The 15 grams. I think one scoop is 5 grams, right? Does that sound
Yeah,
about
yeah,
right?
usually. Yeah.
Yeah. So 15 grams a day of
'Cause that's what I that's
glutamine.
what I normally hear. I hear 15 to 30. When I was talking to Carlos, he was doing 40. And then, he's having, Carlos has had a lot of issues with his stomach and he's looking
Right.
really good right
Yeah.
now. So I was picking his brain. Yeah, he said it was up to 40. I was like, whoa.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
I
And
know
then
people were talking about collagen peptides for a while, and I was doing that for a minute, but
what about the
um,
BP C157? You ever play with that? That's supposed to be really
I
good
haven't
for the
played with
gut
that.
health too. It's supposed to be really good for gut health. He said it helped, and I've heard clients and stuff say that as well. I didn't really realize it's supposed to help gut. I know it helped with local issues, but apparently it's got a pretty good systemic effect on your gut too.
I'll have to try that out and see how that works for me. But I know the things I mentioned have been helpful. Definitely probiotic for sure.
Are you taking a specific one? Like how many? Like what do they call it? I was taking like a 60 million,
Yeah,
whatever it is.
I think it's 75.
Yeah. Okay, it's a pretty big one.
Yeah. I have to go back and read the bottom. I think it's 75.
Nice. Man, that's such a so wild what we can do now, right? Like you would have been just dead back in the day. Like
Right.
it's
Or
just
just like
done.
stuck with an ostomy bag for my entire life.
Yeah,
So
exactly. I mean, depending on
yeah.
when this happened. So, oh man, that's so wild. Like I really think that people got to appreciate how chill you are about this because that's like a big thing. You're working out 8, 9 months. How long did you have the ostomy bag, you said?
7, almost 8 months.
And you're working as an attorney full time, and you're working out with your ostomy bag, just trying to keep it together. So I mean, it's pretty hardcore, man.
Yep.
Everyone wants to act like they're a
We
hardcore bodybuilder, but you're a hardcore and you're not even like about it. You know what I mean? You don't even like make it seem like it's a big deal. So that's what makes it even more hardcore.
I mean, it's just another day in the life, man. Just kind of walking through life, and you have a bowel rupture, you get yourself up and go.
I mean, they probably give you perspective, I'm assuming, afterwards with everything, makes you appreciate
Yeah,
it a little bit more.
because they definitely did a great job of talking me through, like, this is what's going to happen if everything follows the plan that we have, you should be good to go. It's like hopefully with no disruptions or anything like that, everything should work out in your favor. And blessed enough that everything worked out in my favor. So
That'll be interesting. Yeah, it's gonna be cool to see on stage. Is your scars, is it pretty minimal now, or is it still pretty gnarly? How's it look?
So it's still the same. My surgeon did a really good job of making the scar along the
Like the
stomach line.
ab? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So it's
So
not
now
like
it
it's
just look like you got
very.
deeper abs.
So she tried to make it as pretty as possible because she knew that I was going to be competing, and so she really took her time with sewing it up to make sure it looked as pretty and as appealing as it possibly could. And I really think it does. Obviously you're going to notice it, people are going to see it, but I don't think it's one of those like, oh my gosh, what happened? It's just more so, oh, he has a scar across the stomach type of deal.
Yeah, and like it's the same thing. Like it might not be, you're never gonna get downgraded for like something like that, but it's like if you had a shitty waist and it just drew attention to it, you know what I mean? Like it could be bad.
Yeah.
If anything, it's gonna draw attention to your tiny little waist. So might not be bad.
Exactly. So I'll take it.
So are you looking forward to the Arnold? Are you paying attention to what's going on there?
Man, I'm gonna be very, very honest with you. I have been so out of the loop with what's going on in the bodybuilding world. I know that Samson's doing it, if I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken. And I've seen a few of his posts here lately. He looks amazing. I feel like he's improved so
What the
much
fuck?
from his
I
Olympia
know.
win, which is
How?
crazy to think about. Because there's just like so much that little time in between, and he's improved that much in between that. So it's going to be really interesting to see how he looks on stage, which I feel like he's going to look phenomenal. But he's really the only one that I've noticed as far as across Instagram about how they're looking coming into the Arnold. So I have to go and actually like sit down and like spend some time to catch myself up on the
Yeah,
bodybuilding
we
scene.
got are you pretty like do you not follow pretty much? You got so much going on in your life. I mean, you're not like following like a ton of content. Do you watch like Full Odds podcast, any of this stuff at all, or you're just doing
Yeah,
your thing and
I
you just compete and go back to normal life?
exactly. Like I would love to be able to like sit down and like listen to some of those podcasts. I'm sure they would be. enlightening in a lot of ways to sit and listen, but it's finding the time.
Yeah.
I just don't have that time to spend like an hour or two to listen to some of those multiple podcasts.
Yeah, so I'll tell you who's in it real quick. Then
Yeah,
you
yeah.
got Samson. I mean, you got the top, three of the top five, right? So this is honestly going to be one of the most stacked Arnolds ever, right? Because you got the Mr. Olympia, you got last year's Mr. Olympia, Derek Lunsford, you got
Hmm.
Andrew Jacked, you've got another Mr. Olympia, Brandon Curry, you got an Arnold Classic winner and runner-up to Olympia in Bonac. Got 212 Mr. Olympia Sean, which is going to be interesting to see how he does. He did the Arnold last year, right? So
I think
yeah, I
so.
mean. And then you got James Hollinshead. Who else is a big one? Those are the main kind of ones that people are talking about for the top five or so.
Hmm.
Uh, just thinking of these names, like if you were to do a rough with, I know you haven't seen too many pictures. I would say that Derek's put out some stuff. He's looking better. It's always tricky with him though because like shit looks weird like the day like he looks good the day before and then like I don't know if they just pulled so much water or what, but he always his legs come down a lot
Hmm.
compared to like the week before. So he's looking good right now. I haven't seen too much from Andrew. Andrew tends to cover up, he doesn't show a lot, but he tends to do a lot better in the early shows. And I
Yeah.
remember he came in just, you remember when he got third to Nick and Samson? He came in just shredded. He didn't quite have as much size as he does now, but I think if he came in that shredded, or he comes in, remember, did you see how he looked in Texas when he won last year?
Yes.
Like
It's
one of
amazing.
those
Amazing.
looks going to be
Yeah.
pretty gnarly. I mean, Samson is going to be hard to beat, I think, but I think the second could be up between Derek or Andrew, and then Carlos Thomas. He's looking wild. Have you seen any of his pictures?
I haven't. I haven't.
He
I
had a big
know.
update. Yeah.
Kidding. I have to go back and I have to go look because I'm sure he looked like he's just a freaking of himself.
Did you compete
Um,
against him ever
I did
or with
not.
him? I
I
mean,
did
I guess he would have been a higher division, but you never did a nationals with him.
not. Mm-mm.
I think he
I
did.
just remember seeing one of his first. I forgot what bodybuilding page it was, but I just recognized just how massive his quads are. I'm like, this guy's
Dude, that was the first thing I asked him. I was like, "Why are you such a freak? Like, do you
like,
do something for your quads, like specifically, or like, how
yeah,
are they so round on the sweep?" Because I mean, yeah, it's easy to build up that the teardrop and those adductors, but that sweep is just wild. I mean,
yeah,
and he's got the ability to pull poses off of Andrew and Derek if he's coming in condition. I mean, his side poses would probably beat Andrew's if he's comes in the right condition. And I mean, I think his front lat. We talked about the couple poses he thinks he can get off of Derek, and then I asked him if he could get anything off of Samson. He's like, no, I don't think I got anything off of Samson right now. But there's no shame in that. And
no,
Carlos seems to be in like a really good spot mentally right now.
good.
He mentioned like he's done a lot of therapy and he's been on some SSRIs and it seems to have helped his mindset a lot, which has helped his stomach and his cortisol levels a lot. So he's kind of like the dark horse because people they don't know what to expect. He could be eighth or he could be third.
Yeah, because I remember seeing him at there was a Texas Pro,
Yeah,
and
yeah. He got
he was
third.
very impressive at the Texas Pro.
Yeah, he wasn't in the shape just because he was still having the issues. He was maybe like 10-15% off and he got third and he was
Yeah,
comparable to Hunter and Andrew. It wasn't like
right,
he's like a
right.
distant third. He's like, oh, he's right up there. I mean, he's another one of you guys, just the genetic freaks with little waist.
Massive proportions. Like he's just amazing, amazing, amazing.
How do you think Sean will hold up against the big guys?
Um, I feel like it was
He
it.
does look a little better than he did at the Olympia. I know he switched to Boss and Jansen
Yeah,
was having
I
some
think if
issues.
he, what year was it that he earned the name Giant Killer? If he brings that presentation where he earned the term, like he earned the name Giant Killer, then
Talking
I
about
feel
like
like
when
it's
he won Legion and stuff and beat
yeah,
Sergio. Yeah, I don't think he's got those
yeah,
legs anymore though. Those they're a little less round. Yeah, it tends to
yeah.
happen and when you get in their 40s.
But I think if he can bring something close, then I think he's gonna have a good showing. But he, again, I feel like he's another one of those just kind of just freakish competitors where you're just so bubbly, like being at like 179 pounds on stage, but yet he's so bubbly that he is easily comparable to the open guys because of the bubbliness and because he's able to pose so well to bring out the size and bubble. And you just your eyes get drawn to him because his conditioning outside of the Olympia has always been spot on. So he's always shredded, he's always tight. And so if he can harness that to where he's like that spot on without question, I think he's going to have a great showing without a doubt.
I was gonna ask you, but you probably don't know. Like, I was wondering, like, I feel like the guard is getting ready to change, minus Keon. You know, Keon's looking crazy at the top, but there's a little
Yeah.
bit of the older guys below him. I was gonna ask you, do you know any 212s coming up? Do you see anybody who might be cracking into the top five potentially that hasn't been there? There's that one young guy who got second to Ashkenazi or whatever, where it was Ahmed, and then I think got
Mhm.
like sixth at the Olympia. Zagrella, is that his name? You know what I'm talking about? He got
I think that's his name. Yeah. I
crazy aesthetics.
Yeah. Again, it's one of those things where I just have not been able to keep up with, all the new uh up and rising 212 guys, but it's not surprising to me at all that there's going to be a changing on the guard. I feel like it happens almost not every year, but every couple of years where you start having these young guys have that muscle maturity coming in and they're getting that size and things and kind of really start putting pressure on those big names. Um, so it's not surprising to me at all. There's going to be kind of a changing of guard in the 212. I think Keon is he's just going to stay where he is because he just keeps getting better.
Yeah.
It's like somebody, a friend of mine, had commented on one of his photos. And he's like, I think he said something on the lines of, it's like Keon has 5 hamstrings. Like it's just ridiculous how his
Yeah.
leg development, his hamstrings are. So yeah,
Yeah,
he's just
the taper is just
yeah,
wild.
he's just to see his growth from classic into 212 is something amazing.
Yeah, well, I mean,
It
he was
really
natty
is.
when he turned pro in classic, and you can. I mean, people used to. I love how people like automatically assume that everyone's a fucking liar, and then like when you saw him hop on, you saw like, oh shit, okay, he
Yeah.
probably was natty. You don't go from 170, shredded to 205, just like looking even just like ungodly. I mean, Jesus,
Yeah.
he's got such a crazy thing. The only thing people critique him is his stomach sometimes, but when he pulls that vacuum, it's like you can't. It's like there's nothing there at all.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't have the best ab shape in itself, but if you pull vacuums in every pose, it doesn't really matter.
Exactly. He's just, and I think for me, it, you mentioned the shape, but I like the density.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
in that back lat spread, like that, like just the thickness and you can't. It's just something you can't beat. Really can't.
Just his front relaxed too,
Yeah,
This is just wild. So let
crazy.
me ask you this: if say you're continuing your bodybuilding journey and you start climbing up the ranks and you become like a potential top guy, would there ever be a point where you would step back from your other job and focus just on bodybuilding, or is that something you could never really see? You can pull like a Ronnie Coleman, you wait till you like winning the Olympia and then quit your job.
I I don't see myself ever doing it just because I don't know how passionate Ron was as far as being an officer. Um, but for me, I have such a passion for being an attorney, and like I don't know if I could ever step away from it. Um, I just love doing the job so much. If I'm blessed enough to be um, one of the top in the 212 division and an Olympian, and things work out that way, I may dial back on some of the workload, but I think I would still be active as an attorney just because the work it took to become one.
Right.
I think that's the reason why I wouldn't step away from it. Is because 3 years sitting for the bar exam 3 times, like there was a lot of work that went into earning this license, and so I just couldn't see myself not fulfilling everything I possibly can in that role until the day I choose to retire. So,
Are you going to be doing other shows besides the Tampa? Is the goal to try to get to Olympia this year, or is this one and done?
um, I think kind of just depends on how placing goes because I'll turn 35 in May. So we have the opportunity to do the Open and Masters, I believe, because I think Tampa has a Masters as
I
well.
think it's 40 though. I think Tampa's
Is
is
it
40,
40?
isn't it? And I'm pretty
I thought it was
positive.
35.
I think it's 40. I think the women start at 35, but pretty sure all the
Women's on
dude
35.
match.
Okay. If that's the case, then won't be doing the Masters. I really thought that men was at 35,
I'm
but
pretty
I
positive.
may
I
be
could be
wrong.
wrong, but I'm pretty sure.
Okay. I'll obviously I'll double check it and make sure.
Yeah.
But if for whatever reason it is at 35, then we'll do the master division. If not, then we'll just do the open. And if we place high enough, then we may do a second show, depending on what the critique would be from the judges. But right now, the focus is just the Tampa.
Was there a reason you picked Tampa? Just the timeline?
Timeline.
Yeah.
Yeah, because um, it's a big show, but I think it's another opportunity to be at a different venue in front of judges against another set of competition. Because I'm not sure again who is all going to be there. Um, it could be quite possible that a few of the players from New York Pro that I competed
Yeah.
against will be at the Tampa, but Texas Pro has grown so much as far as it being a big show that I feel like it may draw more competitors to Texas than Tampa. But regardless, competition will be stiff. But you have another opportunity to compete um, against some other great 212 bodybuilders. So,
Is your daughter gonna go? Is she gonna watch you?
no. So the harder thing is because since she'll be turning 3, keeping her entertained,
Yeah, it's hard. I was wondering.
it's going to be hard. So I think we probably won't start taking her until maybe she's 4 or 5, to where she can entertain herself,
Yeah.
and she'll have a better understanding of why we're there. Uh, because again, me being getting ready for a show, and then the stress of that for me, and then my wife having to balance
Yeah.
me and the toddler. Nah, I would not. I wouldn't have the. There's no way I could ask my wife to do something like that
Yeah.
to balance our child and myself. So uh, when she gets old enough, like I said, maybe 4 or 5, then we'll probably start bringing her.
That'll be cute. She'll be like the little girl who grows up in the scene.
Exactly. Exactly.
So have you been reading anything good? I'll let you go in a second. I know you are a big reader. Like I said, I love that you are a thinker and there's some depth to you. A lot of bodybuilders are very one note. What have you
Yeah.
been reading lately?
So I'm working through The Rights of Man by Thomas Paine. Really, really good book. Kind of delves into his idea of what should be the foundations of government, how government is meant to be created, and how uh, individuals uh, like you and myself uh, give rights to government to governance. So uh, government doesn't necessarily on its own have the right to govern. It's us as individuals that, um, for lack of better words, submit the right for government to govern. So that kind of perspective and reading through his thought process, being one of the great thinkers of the early part of our nation, is something very fascinating to me. And I also have his book Common Sense, which I'll start after this. That's also a really good read, from what I understand. So,
Nice. Man, I appreciate it. Is there anything else you want to put out there before I let you go, man?
you guys can follow me at JD Muscle. That's J.D Muscle.
If you want those
And you're
those
welcome.
trunks, gotta be a little more than
Yeah.
300 bucks.
And I
And the
all the
JD
sport.
is tell everyone what the JD is for, because I was confused at
Yeah.
first.
So JD is not my name. JD stands for Juris Doctorate, which is the official title of my law degree. So that's where the JD comes from. And you guys can follow me, follow the journey. I try to post as much as I can, different workouts and updates and physique updates. I usually stop posting physique updates once competition prep starts, just because I like having that flying under the radar feeling. But for the most part, during the off season, you'll see a lot of physique updates and you'll see workouts and leg training and whatever different training I have the time to video. Um, and just, young bodybuilders, old bodybuilders, everybody in between, just keep grinding, keep working. As my favorite motto is, the work continues. And so uh, take every day and do your best.
All right, man. Thank you so much. I appreciate it, dude. Looking forward
Yeah,
to
thanks
seeing
for
you at
having me. Yeah.
Tampa. I'm gonna if you maybe like just show me some sneak peeks if you stop doing some updates. I want to see what you work with because I'm really excited to see how you work with Blue because I really liked my time with Blue. I think he's a great fit for what you need.
Yeah, I'll definitely do it. Like once competition prep starts, I'll slide you some sneaks, and you can
Nice.
be kind of have the inside peel on what's happening.
Cool, man. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for your time, brother. Always good to
Yeah,
talk to
you too,
you.
man.
All
Definitely.
right, have a good one.
You too.